Incoming White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt leads our coverage here. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Nice to see you. There's a lot to talk about. I know you guys are juggling a lot of things at the last minute here. We'll see how that all works out. When we get to the moment tomorrow, which is the speech, what's he going to tell America?
You're going to hear President Trump talk about how we are entering a golden age of America and how Americans' hope can be restored in this great nation. You'll hear President Trump talk about the reality of the world that we are living in, the border invasion that has turned every state in this country into a border state. You'll hear him talk about the dire economic situation that many American households have found themselves in because of the Biden administration's policies. But then you'll hear him talk about his plan, his executive action on day one to fix these problems that have been plaguing the American people over the past 4 years. And I think after hearing his speech tomorrow, Americans are going to feel a renewed sense of hope and optimism. And you're already feeling that in this city throughout this weekend.
Yeah, you really can. I'm telling you, it is interesting. The Fox News poll says this, that Trump's win was a rejection of Biden policy at 54%. Let me ask you, when you have the executive orders that go out, how are you going to, as press secretary, communicate to the people, this is how this is going to go, this is what we're able to do immediately? How much rejection of the Biden policy can happen on day one?
A lot. And the American people should expect that President Trump is going to deliver on many of the promises that he made to them within the first 24 hours of his taking back the Oval Office. Our policy team has been working diligently on putting these orders together for him so we can immediately shut down the southern border, reinvigorate our energy industry, reverse many of the disastrous Biden administration executive orders that Joe Biden signed on day one 4 years ago, which have led to the increased cost of living and inflation in this great country. So there's a lot for us to message. It's a big responsibility. We don't want the details to be lost on the American people because every single one of these executive actions that President Trump is taking are monumental, and they are truly going to transform the way that this government here in Washington, D.C. works, how the bureaucracy works, and how it's been ripping off American taxpayers.
So here are the top priorities. Call for number 5, immigration deportation, 13%. Let me come back to that. Economy and jobs, same, 13. Inflation, high prices at 11. Make America great again and resign or quit at 9% with an even score there. On immigration and deportation, it seemed that Tom Homan made some news yesterday. He'll join us next hour about reconsidering going into Chicago this coming week. What can you add to that? Will that happen?
I will never comment on specific law enforcement operations. But what I will say is that President Trump promised the American people that he is going to launch the largest mass deportation operation in American history, and under the leadership of Christine Noem and of CBP and ICE, I'm sure they are preparing to do just that, because this policy has overwhelming support from the American people. There was a fascinating poll in the New York Times yesterday that showed that 83% of Americans support deporting illegal immigrants who have committed crimes in this country. And that's what President Trump and this administration will be focused on. If you broke our nation's laws to get here, and then on top of that, you come into our country, you get a free ride, and then you committed a crime, you are going to be sent home to your home country. And this is going to send a very strong message to the rest of the world that if you are an illegal immigrant who is thinking about breaking America's laws, think again, because you will be sent home.
Well, interesting, because Eric Adams, met with President-elect Trump over the weekend. He's the mayor of New York. We got a problem in New York.
For sure.
But some of these mayors who want to do the right thing are dealing with sanctuary city laws in their state. Do you get a sense that there's any ability to cooperate with the federal government from somebody like an Eric Adams?
Well, yes. In fact, you've seen some rhetoric softening from some of these Democrat governors. I can speak on behalf of the governor of Massachusetts, Maura Healey, who has said that now she realizes there's a big problem in her state, and she's, maybe willing to work with the Trump administration. And so when you see President Trump actually in power implementing these policies, I do think that these Democrat mayors and governors who their citizens are fed up. Again, I'll recite that poll. There's overwhelming support amongst the American people, Democrats and Republicans, to do the right thing. We have to be a nation of laws. We have to restore law and order in red states and in blue states alike. And President Trump will work with anybody across the aisle to do that.
2 more things here. One from me, one from Dana.
Sure.
there's a weather storm rolling in here. It could be wind chill 5 degrees tomorrow, or it may not be. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Others have suggested it might be more than just weather to move things indoors. Can you confirm or deny that security is a consideration?
I've seen those allegations and those rumors online. They are unequivocally false. As President Trump said in his statement, the inauguration was moved indoors because he wants to protect his supporters. It is going to be frigid tomorrow. I'm from New Hampshire. I'm used to the cold, but it is going to be very, very cold. There was also a concern about law enforcement personnel, the horses, the canine dogs. There's so much that goes into protecting a president on Inauguration Day. And so President Trump made this call in the best interest of his supporters, and it's strictly due to weather.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.